Okay. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another edition of our virtual Jobs and Economic Recovery Listening Tour. My name is Brian Egolf. I am the Speaker of the House in the New Mexico Legislature, and this week's town hall is a continuation of the Jobs Listening Tour that we started in December of 2016. It is an effort that has taken me and many of my colleagues in the House and the Senate all over the state of New Mexico, from Shiprock to Chaparral and many places in between. And we use these opportunities to meet with local elected officials, business owners, entrepreneurs, economic development professionals. And everywhere that we've gone, we ask questions about ways that communities believe the legislature and state government can help to improve business conditions, things that we can do to partner with local leaders in job creation, and generally what we can do with infrastructure and other things so that local leaders and local economic development officials, local business owners can have a better time, an easier time expanding businesses, recruiting new businesses into the state, and hiring more people, creating more jobs. And today we are in San Juan County. We had made a commitment to go to every county in New Mexico before the end of the year. Then the pandemic occurred, and those plans went out the window. So we're doing them virtually now, and it's great to be with so many great folks from San Juan County. I'll introduce everyone in just a minute, but we're also joined by two state representatives from the area, Representative Anthony Allison and Representative Wonda Johnson. And so I'd like to ask them to say hello and share a few words. Maybe Representative Johnson. Good afternoon. Thank you for being with us. I'd like to see if you want to share a few words as we get started here.
Sure. Thank you, Speaker. And thank you for hosting this recovery economic listening tour. I just want to let everyone know that I represent House District 5, which includes San Juan, McKinley counties. I represent 19 chapters, East Gallup. And in San Juan County, I represent 9 chapters. And my territory entails east of 491, parallel to west of 371, south of Upper Fruitland and Nahanzad, and north of East Gallup. And I just want to mention those locations to you in those communities, because in those communities, my constituents drive as far as Gallup, Farmington, Window Rock, Crown Point for jobs, for education, for healthcare, and things of that nature. So I look forward to hearing from our community members, our stakeholders, about the progress we're making and the many areas of concern regarding our livelihood. So with that, I just want to say thank you. I continue to thank everyone for your work, and God bless you. And I'll be listening to our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Allison, good afternoon. I'd like to see if you want to share a few comments before we jump into the conversation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too am very grateful that you were able to talk with us in San Juan County. We thank you for the opportunity that you have given us to come together. And I'm representing 6 Navajo chapters, which are the Clamato, Red Valley, Gutty Eye, Shiprock, Upper Fruitland, and Seracan, or it was used to be known as Homeback, and also the communities of Fruitland, Waterflow, Kirtland, and a small sliver of Farmington. That is my district. And we all know that our district has many challenges, and those many challenges were here before the pandemic, but it has only been made worse by the pandemic. So with these listening sessions and the collaboration, our hope is to improve access to rural healthcare, find housing solutions, and most of all, develop our local economy and create economic development. And also, I would like to hear on working together to ensure that our Native students have the education resources that they deserve. So with that, I look forward to this hearing session to hear ideas during this conversation that I can take with me back to Santa Fe in the next upcoming January session. With that, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for bringing us together. And thank you to my local colleagues, my comrades. And I'm glad to see my cousin brother, Mr. Fortner, on the panel today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. You're correct. We've got a great group of folks to share ideas with us. We have the chairman of the San Juan County Commission, Jack Fortner, Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett. We have Council Delegate Eugenia Charles Newton of the Navajo Nation Council, Shiprock Chapter is where she is from. We have Dr. Tony Pendergrass, the president of San Juan College. Carmen Martinez, she's the director of the Small Business Development Center at San Juan College. We have the city manager of Farmington, Rick Mays, the San Juan County manager, Mike Stark, Dr. Lorenzo Reyes, who is Dean of Workforce and Economic Development at the college, Sherrick Roanhorse, president of the school board for Navajo Prep, Warren Unsicker, director of Farmington Economic Development, Hank Adair, who is director of the Farmington Electric Utility System. And I think we also have a county commissioner, Jim Crowley, is with us. So we've got a good group. And I think I'd like to start our conversation with Chairman Fortner and Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Crowley, and Council Delegate. And maybe if you could tell us a little bit about what has this year been like for your constituency and for the community? Maybe we'll start with Commissioner Fortner, and we'd love to hear, sort of an update on how things are and how are things looking from economic development perspective in the county.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would also tell you that sitting next to me and listening is Commissioner-elect Fortner. She is going to be taking my place on January 1st. So, but I will tell you how I think that you, as the speaker in Santa Fe, could help us. A lot of what I would say and a lot of what the mayor would say and Commissioner Crowley is probably very similar. So I'm limiting mine to two things. Number one, we met with you and Senator Candelaria more than a year ago. And one of the things that you mentioned to us was the possible interest in a petrochemical plant. And we took that idea and we've run with it. And we have reached an unprecedented memorandum of understanding with the Navajo Nation for a right-of-way for a railroad. And that was probably one of the biggest hurdles to go to the next step. And so what we really need is we need support. We don't need money. We just need to support, let the state, so that the folks that we're going to be reaching out to know that the state supports us in pursuing this endeavor. Only in the context of a petrochemical plant do we think that a railroad could be built. The $250 million is a hefty price tag if you think in terms of only the city, county, or the state. But in terms of a $6 billion project, then all of a sudden $250 million railroad becomes realistic. And not only would it is it essential for the petrochemical plant, but it would help NAPI in exporting some of their products for solar panels transported in. There are a number of things that it would help. And if we get to that point, the construction phase is about 6,000 jobs. That's just unbelievable. And then the completion, it would be 600 permanent jobs. and it'd be on the reservation. One of the things we told the chairman of the Navajo tribe is, look, if you think this needs to be Navajo preference as far as hiring, we're okay, because we just want the jobs for San Juan County. And so from the perspective of the county, and the city's also been critically involved in this, Mayor Duckett. But we just want to know that you guys are still behind us. That's the one thing.
That's great.
The second thing is the film industry. It's still very important up here. You know, we've gotten 2 capital outlays from you guys and the governor. We're very appreciative of that. One of the things, though, is that the 2 prior location coordinators, both Don Gray and Todd Christensen, based on what they told us, we went forward with purchasing a Tota Theater downtown to make that kind of the hub. And now we're being told that that may not be a qualifying location after all, or qualifying facility. And so we're gonna be reaching out to you, Mr. Speaker, and to the governor's office to say, look, we've made some decisions based upon advice we got from the state government.
Yeah.
And so you should be aware that that's one of the things. And finally, the thing that I'm not going to talk about, because I know the mayor will, is the Carbon Capture Energy Transition Act. So, you know, my business has been affected, Farmington's been affected, San Juan County's been affected by this COVID, and of course the oil prices, you know, everything hit at the same time. So, you know, we need to come together. This panel of leaders is a good start. And so we thank you for calling this.
That's great. And the petrochemical, that's the making of like the plastic pellets, right? From the natural gas.
You know, they need the 2 things we have is we have an abundance of cheap, inexpensive natural gas, and that's what it takes for the petrochemical plant.
Right. Let's not call it cheap. Let's call it high value.
There you go. Yeah, inexpensive. Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, great. That's a terrific update, and certainly, you know, right off the bat, I think we should definitely be able to address the issue with the theater. That might just need to be a tweak to the Film Production Tax Credit Act. So that might be really easily done. Thank you for that update, Mayor.
Speaker.
Nice to see you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the opportunity to bring us all together here, and I'm excited to see a number of our community members that are present and speaking on behalf of their entities as well as the community at large. To your first question, just in regards to the effect of COVID and the pandemic, obviously we've looked at the economic issues, the mental health issues that we're seeing all across the country. We, of course, did not skirt those either. We're dealing with those currently as we sit here right now. Couple all that is with Chairman Fortner had mentioned in regards to what has happened to the oil and gas production here in the state. All of those things have left people with a feeling of uneasiness, a lot of unknowns. People are looking for strength in their economic future, knowing that high-paying jobs are going to be here, and ensuring some family stability is worked in there as well. So we're dealing with that, and I'm happy that Chairman Fortner brought up the rail project, petrochemical project, and the film industry. I will put the icing on the cake in regards to San Juan Generating Station and the Enchant Energy City of Farmington project for carbon capture. As you are aware, we had come to your committee requesting for an amendment to the ETA in order for us to have an extension to bring that power plant into compliance with the ETA CO2 requirements. I believe at that time you had said if we had a viable company and a business plan, that would be a waiver would be considered for this project. We would ask for that type of consideration going into the next session as San Juan Generating Station continues to move forward, Enchant and City of Farmington continue to move forward at a very rapid pace in regards to the carbon capture project, thanks in part to the 45Q tax credits provided by the federal government, as well as interest being now brought to the forefront from New Mexico Tech and a grant that was provided to them for the injection wells for CO2 on site. Hank Adair, our Farmington Electric Utility Director, is on the call here today, as well as City Manager Rob Mays, to provide any type of technical background that you may need or require in regards to this project. But as it pertains to the area in general, our focus here is retaining those 1,500 direct and indirect economic-based jobs that every area truly holds dear, understanding that an economic-based job grows service jobs in other areas as well, and helps continue to fund the social services program to support so many of those in need here in our communities. Also, in regards to this project, is the impact that San Juan College and the School of Energy will have in becoming a national training center for carbon capture power plant workers. So we're really excited about where this project is going. And Chan Energy has appointed a new CEO, Cindy Crane, who brings with her over 2 decades of experience working in the electric energy field. She has a lot of great experience and a lot of great networking capabilities there, and has been a huge asset to this project. So that is our big focus. Looking forward to what can be discussed here in the next session in regards to economic development from the City of Farmington standpoint. I'm sure there are many other things that we could bring here today. There was a question that was asked just briefly on the questions that were sent out to the group, dealing with what one priority the legislature can address to help our city. I'll use city in this essence as opposed to industry. One of the biggest concerns that we hear about here locally is the need for an amendment to the All Hazard Emergency Act to ensure that there is a legislative due process that is brought into the forefront during state emergencies. We believe that the voices of our state elected officials are critical and need to be heard, and certainly as supporting us as individuals, as constituents of the state, to ensure that that there is a balance of power and all 3 arms of government are being heard during these very difficult times. So that is one I definitely wanted to bring to your attention. I'm sure you've heard it from other places, but it is very impactful. So thank you.
Sure, thank you. I would, I'll mention it now so we don't risk forgetting it as we go forward. I think it'd be a great idea for you to reach out to the chairpersons of the interim committees. One would be Water and Natural Resources. The other would be Economic and Rural Development. Those would be 2 places where presentation can be made on Enchant Energy, and that way you're not having to do all the education work during the session. And that would be especially important this year because the session in January may be all or partially virtual again, like our special session was. And one of the consequences is that may make it harder for folks to, get a lot of members educated, on a new idea like this. So I would encourage you to take advantage of the interim process. And if you have any problems with there, please reach out to my staff and we can help you get on the appropriate agenda for sure.
Thank you, Speaker. Briefly,
Sure.
With the Water and Natural Resources Committee, and what was the second one?
Economic and Rural Development.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm sure they'd be happy to hear from you. Next, I think we'll go to Delegate Eugenia Charles Newton. It looks like she's joined us. Delegate, are you there with us? I see your box, but I don't hear a voice. So we'll come back. Commissioner, oh wait, there you are. Delegate, can you hear us? All right, we'll come back. Commissioner Crowley, I wonder if you have any thoughts you'd like to share with us about priorities for us to consider in January and how the community's doing.
Yes, there's one in particular. In fact, I'm experiencing it right now, which says my internet connection is unstable. We have real problems with getting good connectivity in the Four Corners. And part of the issue is that there is a lot of grant money, but it's not available when you have to partner with a Navajo Nation and the issue with regard to ownership of land. we're trying to get a completed study with Southern Colorado where we can continue the loop and get us connected, but we are not well connected. And so I'd like Manager Stark to just kind of hit a couple points on that, if we can let him speak
Sure.
next right quick. And
Sure.
I won't take any more time. Thank you, Speaker.
Sure. So that's a perfect segue. We're going to turn now to the county manager, Mike Stark, and city manager, Rob Mays. And also, if we could have Warren Unsicker and Carmen Martinez are kind of on deck. But county manager, Mr. Stark, please share with us your thoughts about broadband and what we can do on that front, and other ideas or thoughts you might have for us to look at in January.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And just echoing what everybody else has said today, we really do appreciate you taking the time to listen to us and to ask how the legislature might best assist our area come January. And so that really means a lot to us. As it relates to broadband, we have some critical gaps up here. Of course, COVID has accelerated the need and specifically has shown kind of where we have those gaps, specifically in education. I certainly would let our educational professionals on the phone speak to that. But as remote learning has been the way to deliver education to date as a result of COVID, we have a lot of gaps out in the rural parts of San Juan County. And so, as Commissioner Crowley indicated, we've been working collectively with the Southern Colorado COG to help provide a redundant loop, third leg of transmission and redundancy into our area, and ultimately to be able to fill in another backbone line, and then to eventually add the middle mile and last mile connections into the more remote areas of our county. In addition to helping with the educational side, it also would help us in diversifying our economy. It would allow us to recruit more remote workers to our area, those that can live anywhere in the world and can choose to live in New Mexico, specifically Northwest New Mexico, where we have a great recreational opportunities and a great climate. And so we think that would be a benefit, of course. And then, data centers. We've actually had quite a bit of interest from data centers looking to locate adjacent to the power resources that we have here, we'll continue to have here into the future. Being close to that reliable, uninterruptible power. And we're at 5,500 feet elevation. So, so the combination of inexpensive power, high elevation, lower cooling costs for servers. The only thing we don't have is to have that additional bandwidth and more reliability as it relates to broadband. And so we think that's some areas that certainly would benefit from that. We have worked closely with the Navajo Nation, but funding is always a challenge. And looking at federal grants, you typically have to have to apply. You're going to have to be the ultimate owner of the line for federal dollars. And so if there's other means of providing those resources through the state, potentially that becomes an initiative statewide, that would be phenomenal. The other challenges we have here, and this may sound a little redundant, but everybody's hit on it. It's certainly of much need, and that's jobs. That's what we spend the majority of our time up here, the leaders on this call, working on ways to replace, and that's really been the secret of our success, replace those great middle-class jobs, high-paying jobs with great benefits. That's how we've been successful in our area, and we're of course starting to see those slowly erode due to a number of reasons. And then of course COVID's accelerated all of that as it relates to our economic activity in the county. But we certainly would look to work with the state on continuing to find ways to replace those great jobs we have here. We were very supportive of the recent PRC decision, and thankful to have the 430 megawatts of power that will be located in the Central Consolidated School District, and the $430 million of investment to help keep the tax base reasonably whole. So we're very appreciative of that. Of course, the downside is there'll be some construction jobs for a year or so, but permanent jobs will be, 10 or less potentially, even for a 430 megawatt solar utility plant. So, those are some of the things that we're concerned about. We are, just as a policy matter, we are a little concerned and not sure where things are heading. We know that obviously the Civil Rights Commission is in place and are going to be providing a recommendation to the legislature, specifically as it relates to the potential elimination of qualified immunity or some changes that might occur there, maybe something similar to Colorado. We don't participate in the various municipal and county related insurance pools. We're separately insured, and we have concerns about potential uninsurability. We have concerns about what a law like that might do to premiums for local governments at a time that, boy, we're cash strapped as it is. We're concerned about some of the unintended consequences about, I know the thought is to look at law enforcement and the need for reforms there and to try to capture some form of holding folks accountable. But the unintended consequences, you could include all government officials, including teachers, that now all of a sudden face the risk of a potential civil liability. So just thought I'd throw that out because that's something we're concerned about. You also run the risk of small law enforcement agencies no longer being able to exist because they can't afford the insurance associated with that type of a legislative change. So once again, thank you. We appreciate your time and interest in San Juan County.
Thank you. On the Civil Rights Commission, they have started meeting. All of their meetings are broadcast on the legislature's website, and there is a meeting, I'm certain, coming up where folks from the Association of Counties and the Municipal League are going to be making a presentation. They're also going to look at fiscal implications of any changes. I do want to just to reassure folks somewhat, the bill from Colorado is absolutely a non-starter here in New Mexico. So we've had conversations with several folks that there is 0% chance of any law passing that would put personal financial liability on any state employee, any law enforcement, any member of law enforcement. It's already in the law that, because the lawsuits against police officers, for example, already can be filed in federal court. The way the law works is those are cases brought against an individual police officer. The judgments are awarded against the individual police officer, but current New Mexico law requires the state to pay any damages or to pay the judgment. So that's current law, but we're going to make sure that if the Civil Rights Commission recommends any new legislation, it'll be crystal clear that no state employee, no public employee of any kind, teacher, police officer, everything in between, absolutely no personal liability there whatsoever. So I don't want to get ahead of the commission, but I can tell you, my perspective is that would be a horrible decision. And so as long as I'm able to influence the process, you shouldn't have to worry about that aspect of it. With the mention of broadband, we had thought we might come to Hank Adair a little bit later, but this might be a good time to invite Mr. Adair to tell us a little bit about connectivity and what you're doing to improve the broadband situation up in the Four Corners.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can you hear me well?
We can.
Very good. So the city of Farmington and with Farmington Electric Utility System as a subsidiary of the city, we are currently in evaluation of a broadband feasibility study, and that is fiber to the home. We're doing the middle and last mile. The last time it was completed by the city was in 2012. The uniqueness for the city of Farmington and the division of Farmington Electric is we're unique that we have 1,700 square miles of service territory, much beyond the city of Farmington proper. So we are evaluating doing that middle and last mile, if you will. The opportunity we have is we're not for profit, so we're not looking for return on investments, but the challenge, as you well know, for that rural development is the capital infrastructure per customer, if you will. So capital infrastructure is very heavy with it. The benefit with the city of Farmington is we already have fiber that we use for our electrical system, and that's for our SCADA controls. So based on our fiber, we have some of that backbone built, but the capital is drastic and it doesn't pay back, and we can't affect our electric customers by the consideration of that. So our study is to see what's available and out there. County Manager Stark mentioned it, and as we talk broadband, there is federal funding that is out there, and I mentioned the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, or RDOF, but even with that in the rural areas, it only contributes just a small percentage of what the total capital is. What's unique with the city of Farmington and FUS is we are debt free. So all of our electric has been done on a cash basis. And so to do this investment, if we were to consider it, would mean that the utility and the city would need to go into debt because there's limited funding at the state level for rural broadband and very low amount at the federal level. So currently we're in that study to see if we could get that to pay back to get to those customers. And I think County Manager mentioned it as well, the school systems right now and how it's been with internet. We have even employees within the city or within my group that they don't have internet at home where they're at currently. So that's why we're currently doing the study to see what capital's out there, how much the cost is, and to see if we could do it. And if we as a public power agency, not for profit, can't do it, then it's even more challenging for one that is looking for a return on investment. So it would be interesting to see what the state could do to support that.
Our interim committee on science and technology just had a full day on broadband deployment. I'm going to ask Devram, who's from my staff, on the call to make sure that he emails to you and anyone who wants him, and probably email the whole group with a copy of that report that details, various sources of funding and how it can roll out. We are told that we can expect to have broadband to every school building in New Mexico by the end of the year, which then puts it on other companies or other entities to get it the last mile. So that's another thing that we are pushing, as well as change to the capital outlay policies and procedures to not mandate, but to include broadband along with very many more capital outlay projects as part of something that just gets automatically added as capital outlay is spent. So there's a lot of good things happening, but I'll make sure that report gets to you and that we get some follow-up with your legislative delegation to see about rolling out that information.
That's much appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're in the early stages now. We'll go to our local utility commission and then look to our city manager, our mayor, and council for direction here over the next couple of months. So thank you.
Absolutely. So I'd like to now ask Warren Unsicker from the Economic Development Department to share with us some thoughts about how things are going in San Juan County. And I'd also ask you, I don't certainly mean to put you on the spot, but we've had a lot of conversations with Four Corners legislators about new opportunities in outdoor recreation. And I'm curious, what you're seeing there, and if the Office of Outdoor Recreation or the Outdoor Equity Fund have been playing any role in your plans for the region.
Absolutely, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with this group here. And as you and many are aware, outdoor recreation is a prime target for our region, simply because of the low-hanging fruit that it is and the amount of natural assets that we have to put to use in that regard. And we are very grateful for the partnership of the state, and I'm sure the mayor will want to chime in on some of this as well. with regard to the projects that we're trying to make happen. The infrastructure grant is coming about here shortly from the state, is going to be very beneficial for some of the projects we're putting together here in Farmington. The mayor and council had the foresight to create a fund to help with some of these things, but it only goes so far to finalize some of these larger infrastructure projects. We have large trail programs that we've been putting in motion that would interconnect different parts of our county, that we've been partnering with the county and their resources as well. But the Outdoor Equity Fund too, I know that we had applications come from our region and are waiting to hear back on the formal award of those. And those will help in getting our youth and our those that are less advantaged able to go and enjoy some of the more harder to access outdoor resources that we have here in this area, whether it be mountain biking, rafting, and things like that, that have a price tag attached to them that can sometimes be out of reach for certain people. So we are very grateful for that opportunity. Likewise, are grateful to have just recently become the headquarters of the state's business association for outdoor recreation. So we are now the headquarters of that association to bring together all of the outdoor recreation businesses throughout the state as a coalition of sorts, to find out what we need as a community and throughout the state to really bolster these outdoor rec businesses and make their entrepreneurial efforts that much more successful. And so we continue to try and build assets here that make it easier for entrepreneurs to start their businesses. We've already seen numerous entrepreneurs start outdoor rec businesses in our community. We recently put together a renovation and lease of a city-owned facility for 2 outdoor recreation businesses that we're locating in our downtown area. One is a rafting company, and another is an off-road vehicle rental, fabrication, and rescue company. And so we're starting to see the wheels in motion of people catching on to the vision that we're creating for this community. I had a conversation with just another entrepreneur looking to get into the outdoor rec sphere recently, and likewise hosted some people interested in hosting races out here in mountain biking. And so there's a lot of synergy and activity around the outdoor recreation sphere. And really the next step for us is really the manufacturing side around that outdoor rec opportunity. And so been closely with the Outdoor Retailer Show in Denver that is hosted each year, virtually this year, to try and attract some of those businesses to our region. And they're always intrigued with what we have to offer here, especially with the partnership with the college and all the amazing resources they have there, from an incubator and a maker space, to make it that much easier to prototype and start a fledgling outdoor rec company.
That's great. It's encouraging to hear what you're saying about outdoor rec, and to heard from Commissioner Fortner about some of these ideas that we've looked at, from the petrochemical to outdoor rec. Some of these irons that have been put into the fire over the last couple of years are starting to heat up, and it's very good to hear the innovative nature of your community is putting that to work and trying to find new ways to create employment and jobs. It's very exciting. It's good news, and thank you for sharing it. I have a friend who refers to the Four Corners region, Bloomington, Aztec, and Farmington, as the can-do people of New Mexico, and so it's good to hear some of the good news that's coming out.
Mr. Speaker, I would tell you that we had actually partnered with the Senator Stein, born from Las Cruces. We were going to actually in October, but for COVID, we were going to be hosting with the county,
right,
the outdoor initiative up here. We were really excited, and we were working together. I think we've postponed it a year, but
yeah.
So we think that Farmington and San Juan County can really start competing with Moab. We've received, I think county manager can correct me, about $1 million just to mark trails and working with the BLM for a combination of, I guess, mountain bikes, horse riding, ATV, hiking. So
It's big business, and I've got a friend whose number one recreational activity is mountain biking, and does the slippery rock stuff, and goes all over Utah, and is from Santa Fe, but made their first trip to the Farmington area, and said that in terms of the quality of the rocks and the trails, it just eats Moab's lunch. But for lack of infrastructure, tourism infrastructure, it could be much bigger. So it's very exciting.
Speaker, you got-
Mr. Unzucker mentioned the college, and we have Dr. Pendergrass with us, and he correctly pointed out that the San Juan College is an incredible resource. It's the envy of many other communities in New Mexico, from the incubator and the makerspace and the energy school. And I've toured several times and have always been impressed with the facilities and the faculty, and with Dr. Pendergrass's leadership. And with the comments to Mr. Unzucker, maybe we could invite Dr. Pendergrass into the conversation so she can tell us how the institution is adapting to and dealing with COVID, but also what the university is doing. And we also have Dr. Lorenzo Reyes from the college, and maybe you could tag team and tell us what the college is doing in support of some of these great economic development ideas we're hearing about.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Speaker. It's nice to see you, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this panel. First of all, I'd just like to echo some of the comments that others have made. I also wanted to talk about broadband development, and I'll relate it to how that has affected the college. So in the spring, during the pandemic, we started a drive-through line where students could pick up food, laptops, or Wi-Fi hotspots. We refurbished and acquired about 225 laptops. We checked out 62 Wi-Fi hotspots, but we had a waiting list of about 80 people for Wi-Fi hotspots. Since then, we have done a lot of testing, both on reservation and off reservation, to determine which hotspots work the best. We also set up 7 spots on our campus and on our other campuses so that people could access Wi-Fi in our parking lots. We also developed a map in the community of how people could access Wi-Fi. But to give you a sense, we were spending about $50 a month per Wi-Fi hotspot. And last night, the board approved the acquisition of $250,000 more of funding so that we can purchase more laptops and Wi-Fi hotspots. But this is not a sustainable option for us because the demand is so high for Wi-Fi access. And I'm very aware, all of us are very aware of the situation in our state with our budget. But I just am wondering, are there opportunities to have a statewide broadband initiative? Because I visited with my other colleagues and presidents throughout the state, and this is, as you know, is a statewide issue. And I'm just wondering if any of the COVID funding that has been distributed to the state, if this could be suggested as a priority. The other item that I just wanted to mention is perhaps looking at some other models that we could perhaps mimic here in New Mexico so that community colleges are a more integral piece of economic development. So for example, and I'm going to have Dr. Reyes talk a little bit more about this. We're so fortunate to have him on our staff and as a vital team member, but in his previous life, he was in charge of all economic and workforce development for the city of El Paso for over 20 years. But last year, we didn't have anyone that I'm aware of take advantage of JTIP. And in some other states, the community colleges actually complete the application in partnership with the business, and we know it's a cumbersome process. And then the funds are distributed to the community college to help provide the training for the business. I just think that we could help more businesses access these funds if it was systematized where we are in a more integral role in some of these economic development efforts. And if it's okay with you, Mr. Speaker, I'd like for Dr. Reyes to also speak about some of these opportunities.
Absolutely. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Speaker, Thank you very much for the invitation. I really appreciate the opportunity. As Dr. Pendergrass mentioned, I work in Texas, and we had a funding that was called Skills Development Fund, very similar to the LIDA and the JTIP. But the community colleges were part of the process, especially through the application process, the implementation process, and the execution of the funding. That allows the colleges to have better opportunity to interact with the businesses, understand their business needs, and be able to help them expand their business and find strategies to be able to utilize additional resources. It also had a significant impact and their ability of those businesses to hire more employees. So, I think this could be one of the things that we would recommend to modify JTIP and LIDA. The community college be a key stakeholder in the development of those applications. The other thing that I wanted to mention, although is known by everyone that is participating in this conference call, the college plays a key role in the economic transformation of the region. Looking at the future, looking at the things that we need to do differently, we have identified opportunities how to support our small business community, how to improve educational attainment levels, how to improve workforce in our region. If you look at the models from other states, how they have implemented strategies to focus on those three areas to transform their economy and transform economic development, we're in the position to truly diversify the economy if an investment is made in those three areas. First, talking about small businesses, some of the strategies utilized in some other communities is through the college, through the funding that is provided to the college hires individuals to help those businesses develop marketing strategies to move their products to online. Second, it allows those businesses to be able to find opportunities and to be able to identify strategies to tap into additional resources of funding that may be available to support the business continuity. When it comes to workforce, some of the other states are providing funding to upskill and reskill the workforce. Although funding is available also at the federal level and at the state level, there are significant groups in our region that don't have the resources to be able to pay for training. And if we're going to transform the economy, as it was mentioned before, I think by the mayor, regarding some neutral jobs and be able to bring more economic diversity to the community, we could really focus on jobs that are going to be growing in the future, which is IT, artificial intelligence, automation, those areas where we will have a niche to be able to attract new businesses. Right now, if you look at our educational attainment level, and if you look at our current workforce, it is very difficult to attract some of those companies that pay competitive wages, because we need to transform and prepare our workforce for the future. So, however, for those three strategies, any investment is going to be required. And I think it's going to be worthwhile to consider an investment in our community.
Great. Well, thank you. And the role of community colleges in economic development is critical. And I can share the role that UNM Los Lunas has played in workforce development for Facebook. The community college in Los Alamos has played a major role in workforce development for various projects at the National Laboratory in Los Alamos. That's an interesting suggestion about a role for community colleges in JTIP. It's a shame that they haven't, that program has been underutilized up in the Four Corners. So I think, I'll visit with some of our colleagues up there and see if we can't increase that. I'd also mention, before we go to Sheriff Roanhorse, I did want to mention that the governor just finalized the announcements for CARES Act money, and for the portion of the funds made available for local governments to directly assist businesses in their communities. San Juan County received approximately $1 million. The city of Aztec got almost $2 million. City of Farmington is set to receive 1.4 million. Bloomfield about 150,000. And then on the CARES Act money for the reimbursables, and Dr. Pendergrass, you might look at this in partnership with the county. These are reimbursable for COVID-related expenses, and maybe some of the hotspots or technology, some of the other things that you're doing could be accessed or could be the basis for some reimbursements. But San Juan County is receiving $2 million. The city of Farmington is about 1.2 million, and Aztec and Bloomfield are each receiving about $200,000 for reimbursement of COVID-related expenses. So that money is on the way, or has already been transferred. It was announced the day before yesterday, so that might be something to look at. Sheriff Roanhorse, let's go to you, and why don't you tell us what's happening at your institution, and how you're doing, and how you see the community, and how you are coping with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Allison and Representative Johnson, and thank you to all county and city leadership for your leadership and in your efforts to create a stronger San Juan community. We've had an interesting experience, as most folks have experienced over the last since March, I would say. But I also want to point out some positives, and I think since March and April, we as an institution, as a school in Farmington, have been working with our parent and student stakeholders to create a response and a learning plan. And we spent a good deal of April and May trying to prepare for return to school, which recently took place. And our students are working online right now. But just like most other school institutions in the state and in San Juan County, we've learned a great deal. And as Dr. Pendergrass has also mentioned, we've also seen some challenges as it goes to broadband. And one of the biggest challenges that we do have is just, of course, connectivity. Our school serves about 260 students. I would say a little less than half come from San Juan County, and the other half come from other areas in Arizona, Utah, as well as other areas of rural New Mexico. And broadband is something that's really, when we talk about equity, we've seen a lot of things come to light, and broadband's a huge issue right now. And as Dr. Pendergrass has mentioned, I think that what would be helpful for all stakeholders in our area is to have this conversation about developing a statewide broadband plan. There's things that we can look at, of course, regarding hotspots. Would be good to work with some of these telecommunication companies on broadband limits. Some of our students are hitting limits with their connectivity. For example, we're usually limited to, I believe, maybe 50 gigabytes, I want to say, and some of them are at 30. But there are things that our communities are doing on the Navajo Nation. I know that NTUA is trying to install temporary towers to help with that, to help mitigate some of that connectivity. But those are some things that we can, I think, look at. And I know the county mentioned that, there are issues of land status. And I think that there's an opportunity to collaborate with the Navajo Nation and other San Juan stakeholders. You could use perhaps the State Tribal Collaboration Act, to bring some of those stakeholders together. And I know our council delegate, Charles Newton, will probably highlight that recently our tribal government authorized $53 million for broadband expansion. I don't know how much of that would be used for San Juan County, but I'm hoping that some of those resources could be used to help mitigate that issue that we have. In terms of education, there's other things that we can look at, and I know that San Juan College also hit it right in the nail. It's just looking at the future. And I know San Juan County, the city, as well as the county, have also looking into the future. What does the future workforce look like? And I know there was this healthy conversation that was taking place COVID, but I'm hoping that some of that conversation will continue. We have a lot going that's positive in San Juan County. Yeah, we have things that I think growing industries that we can look at: information technology, energy jobs, the healthcare sector, eco tourism, and those are some things that we can look at. And as one institution in Farmington, we stand ready to collaborate with the state and the legislature and other state and county leaders. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. And thank you for all that you're doing to serve your students and to make sure that they're making the best of a really challenging situation. Thank you also for mentioning Delegate Charles Newton. She is back. I think her microphone is working. Delegate, are you there? Would you like to?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We'd love to
Perfect.
hear your thoughts about the conversation and how we can play a constructive role in helping you.
Thank you. And I do appreciate being invited to this meeting. Shanella, Honorable Representative Anthony Allison, thank you for the invitation. So I'm going to say, first off, I apologize that my pretty mug is not on the webcam. I do have internet connection issues. And so if I use the speaker and the webcam at the same time, there's glitches that happen. So I apologize that my picture is not up there. But with that being said, I guess that's one of the biggest issues that we are facing right now. And I want to reiterate what has already been said regarding the broadband issues that we are currently facing during this pandemic. And we do appreciate the assistance from San Juan County and also the schools for helping us to provide Wi-Fi activity to our students. As many of you know, we don't have the best Wi-Fi or even broadband services here on the nation. We've known that for quite some time, but we also run into a lot of difficulties that involve several forms of red tape, not only at the federal level, but also at the state level and the Navajo Nation level. So a lot of things are being worked out at this point. And as Mr. Roanhorst indicated, we did receive our CARES Money Act, and we awarded $68,224,989 to broadband telecommunication projects. Right now, NTOA is working on a wireless project. They were awarded $32,848,207. Although that sounds like a really large sum of money, we do have to go across 3 states, the state of New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah, and comply not only with federal regulations there, but also state regulations in some cases as well. So that's maybe one thing that we could start discussing is how the state of New Mexico could help us, actually assist us in getting these projects through. Again, there are a lot of challenges to broadband, and I know schools are equipping students with the necessary laptop or tablets, and we do appreciate San Juan College for doing that. But the problem that we run into is we have the equipment and we don't have any connection at all. And the more rural that you are, the more difficulties are involved. I currently live in Shiprock, New Mexico. I live down the farm road, but where I live, the broadband connection is so bad. I have to reset my phone at least 4 or 5 times a day in order for it to reconnect to the connection here with my cell phone. I have AT&T and Verizon. AT&T is for work. Verizon is for my own personal cell phone. I don't have to do that as much with Verizon. In fact, I don't even have to do that at all. But with AT&T, again, I have to reset my phone at least a minimum of 5 times a day in order to have connection. And it does become difficult when I'm on council and or in committee meetings. But there's also, in addition to broadband, there are a lot of other things I think that other people have touched upon. For instance, the support for I guess, for the movie industry, for the film industry. We have looked into enhancing our opportunities for film potential here in the Navajo Nation, specifically here in Shiprock. One of the big blockbuster movies that recently came out was Jumanji. And we were able to bring some of that, those opportunities here to Shiprock, but a lot of them did go there to the county and to the city of Farmington, and it's good that we share these type of opportunities. I understand that the New Mexico Film Office is housed within the New Mexico Economic Development Agency, and so I have reached out to them to ask how we can work together to try to enhance those opportunities and to bring more filmmakers out here. I had the pleasure of meeting the film scout for Jumanji, and she was able, Puck, I believe is her name, was able to give me some information on how we can improve that here on the Navajo Nation. But it sounds like it's going to be a project that the Navajo Nation would have to work with the state of New Mexico. I also know that that I think it would help if the state could help assist with the opportunity zone development. We know that chapters right now are having a difficult time with land withdrawals and with getting development going. And I know that the state has numerous opportunities for investors who are seeking tax cuts or tax benefits instead of utilizing this opportunity zone. So it would be great if we could partner on maybe some ideas to get those going. And then I do want to end with saying that I think we need support with education. It was really disheartening to hear that Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham's office was going to be opposing the Yazzie Martinez decision that was made. And this case does involve the education of our Navajo students, and it's currently in the courts right now, but to have some kind of support from the legislature would be great as far as their position with supporting the Yazzie Martinez decision that was made, and also the push to try to assist our schools in offering better opportunities, better educational opportunities for our students. And I think part of this kind of goes back to the issue of being equitable. The Navajo Nation, particularly the CCSD, Central Consolidated School District, is doing a really great job trying to assist here, but I think we have so many students who are in need, and with the broadband issues that we currently discuss, it makes it very difficult for our students to receive an equitable education. Again, because of the ruralness of the Navajo Nation, but also the broadband issues that we are facing. So just to kind of give you a little bit of insight when I'm talking about broadband issues, if you travel from Farmington to Crown Point, there is a good stretch of road, I'd say about 5 miles, where when you're driving, your phone will indicate that you are in an international zone. And you cannot make any phone calls unless your phone plan allows for international calls to be made. And there's also a lot of what we call dead zones on that stretch of highway, but that also is very evident across Navajo Nation. So that kind of falls back into the broadband issue, and also with students. So having a hotspot on a phone doesn't help because of these dead zones that are across the Navajo Nation, We did try to work with the Federal Regulations Office to see if they could have the various cell phone companies properly, list on their map coverage zones. We are still working on that now, but if we were to have that, it would actually display the holes that are there with cell phone coverage. And again, that kind of plays into the hotspots and the Wi-Fi capabilities as well. So any assistance from the state with those would be welcome. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and go back on mute. I do want to say that I am Council Delegate Charles Newton. I represent the Shiprock area, and normally we say our clans, but I don't, aside from Sharik and Shanella, Honorable Representative Anthony Allison, who we've already established relationships with at CAC. I don't think that there's a need to share my plan. Aside from, I was raised here in Shiprock. I did start off there at San Juan College, so I'm a big supporter of San Juan College and a big supporter of education. So with that, thank you. I'm going back on mute.
You're on mute, speaker.
Yes, I am. I was just thanking the delegate for joining us and for a great conversation. And before I go to Representatives Allison and Johnson, I think Mayor Duckett had a final thought, and then we'll go to the representatives. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No, I was just going to comment on the outdoor recreation component, and Commissioner Fortner brought forward the information just in regards to the great partnership between the county and the city, but also the Bureau of Land Management. The projects that they're working on right now are big. I mean, they're building new trails, they're setting up new trailheads for mountain biking, they're marking trails, they're building restrooms and staging areas that I think will go a long way. You know, one thing that we have learned through COVID is outdoor recreation is immensely important, and people getting outside and staying healthy. And if you can't find a mountain bike for sale here in the city of Farmington because of how quickly they fly off the shelf, and our trails have been packed for the past few months. So we're seeing some very positive momentum in that direction. As mentioned, the Outdoor Recreation Conference, which was supposed to be here, it was October 1st, I believe. That has been postponed until next year, but we appreciate the Department of Outdoor Recreation and Ms. Novice for her dedication and partnership with the city of Farmington, as well as Senator Steinborn, who's been a tremendous asset in regards to that. At some point, I do want to make sure we mention water, and maybe that comes later on. I'll kind of let you direct that, but the need for maybe the state's involvement in a long-term water project to ensure that the Navajo Nation, the city of Farmington, and all the different water communities that we have here that we support are able to utilize our water that we have in Lake Nighthorse in southern Colorado. So I don't want to jump the gun or get to something else. I'll let you guys direct the show, but at some point I'd like to at least bring that to your attention.
Thank you, Mayor. And water is critical, and also it's interesting what you said about the bike shops. Same thing is true at Santa Fe. Every bike that is left, and we have 4 main bike shops in Santa Fe. The only bikes that they have left, really, because I looked last week, are over $4,000 per. I mean, all of the bikes under that price point are gone, and it's wild. I hadn't bought a bike, and I didn't buy one, but I hadn't been bike shopping in 10 years, and I thought, I thought I'd get out of the bike shop for maybe $500 at the high end, and when I saw some of these price tags, they went up to like $12,000. I was shocked. So we'll go to Representative Johnson. Do you have any final thoughts for us before we sign off? Maybe, well, she's maybe muted. So let's go to Representative Allison, and then we'll try back with Representative Johnson. Representative Allison, any final thoughts?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Very interesting sessions. Let's start out with Commissioner Fortner talking about railroad. Some of the things that was mentioned today has been on some of the things that I promised I would be working on. And the idea of the railroad, sir, on doing a railroad study. So that was right up our alley, and I was glad to hear the commissioner say that. If we had issues with Navajo preference, they would be ready. And I can guarantee you, Commissioner, that the Navajo workforce would be ready. When I was working at the mine, we had a railroad system that we maintained, And when you have a railroad system, you just don't work on railroads. You work on the track and the maintenance as well. And all of that was maintained by the Navajo workforce. In fact, even if they put in an electrical rail system, we can work on it, because when I apprenticed as an electrician, I worked on the diesel locomotives, and I can fix anything that has a schematic on it. And then we transitioned to the electronic railroads, and we were able to fix that too. And then another one of my items that I was working on was the internet broadband. We had a very, very good Indian Affairs Committee meeting yesterday, and one of the presentations was made by one of the carriers that's trying to get some jobs, Sacred Wind, and he told us yesterday that he is working with the Navajo Nation and was able to get test sites at 3 of our district chapters to do a 911 survey. And I told them that that's a good way to get your foot in the door so that they can start installing broadband. And then I'm a big proponent of economic development, and I'm glad to hear that from the mayor and the county manager. And I also was glad to hear from Dr. Pendergrass, where they have the facilities for training. We need to continue training a lot of people. And you know what? We all need to collaborate to make progress. That is the key to success, is collaboration. So with that, thank you for bringing us together again, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to thank the panel for giving me ideas to take back to Santa Fe to address some of these issues. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. Do you have any final thoughts for us?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, everyone. I just want to thank everyone for providing the much needed information. Our biggest infrastructure needs, of course, continue to be, yes, I agree, water lines, power lines, and broadband infrastructure. And just want to wish all of our students good luck, as today is the day that they're registering to either go back to school or take the hybrid classes, and school begins on September 14th. So with that, I just want to say thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Representative, and thanks to everyone that was on the panel today. These are wonderful opportunities for us to get good ideas to take back to the legislature. I'm encouraged by the updates on the railroad and by the plant and outdoor rec and all that we heard today. It sounds like the can-do spirit of San Juan County is alive and well, and I'm so pleased to hear some good news and some good updates from everyone who is really seems like you're all coming together and starting to all row in the same direction. It's very good to see. It's a great community and great people in San Juan County, and I really appreciate the update. A lot of the ideas that we get from these sessions become law. The 6 or 7 biggest ideas that we got from the first 2 years of the jobs tour are all now in law, and so I'm sure some of these will be taken back, and we'll be working on them coming up in January. As we end, I always want to say to anyone who's watching at home that the work of the people of New Mexico in addressing the pandemic is working. Our rate of transmission is continuing to fall. Our new case count each day continues to be improving. And because of that, we're starting to see some more reopening of our economy, and hopefully we'll be seeing kids back in school this fall. But it's all possible when we continue to remain vigilant and not let our guard down, not grow complacent, and continue to focus on the simple things that we can do to slow or stop the spread of COVID-19. So please continue to stay physically distant from one another in public. Certainly continue washing your hands, and especially if you are going to be enjoying some indoor dining that's been back since Saturday. But anytime you're out in public, please continue to wear your mask. It is the simplest thing that we can do to show respect for our fellow New Mexicans, and it is a very simple thing that we can do to achieve a great result that will lead to further reopening and a rebound of our economy. So please continue to do that. And until next week, when we'll be back with our town hall from home on a topic that will be announced shortly, I want to say again, thank you for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at 3. Thanks one more time to all of our panelists. God bless you all, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.